Hi guys, in this week's video, I'm going to be talking all about how the MCAT fits into the application timeline. And this is actually a video from my MCAT study schedule course that you can check out below. But I feel like it's so kind of confusing to figure out when to apply and whether you should apply with your MCAT score and just wait until you have it, or if you should apply without your MCAT score so you can get your primary application verified. And then if you don't even know about that whole process, then this video explains it all, so we're just going to jump to that. But if you don't already know me, my name is Maggie. I'm 26 years old and I'll be starting medical school in the summer of 2021. I'm not exactly sure where yet. I have a few options, but if you want to check out and learn more about my whole non-traditional path to medical school and applying 2 times and all that good stuff, you can check out the video above. And other than that, let's get into the video. Hey guys, so in this video we're going to be talking about how the MCAT fits into your application timeline. And just quick side note, I know that in some of these slides the video is going to be in the way of the text and you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm not able to move the video as I'm talking right now. I can't even see it. So just know that this PowerPoint is going to be linked below and you'll be able to refer back to this at any time. So let's get started. The MCAT and the application timeline, it's such a confusing process, I feel like. But basically, in a perfect world, you would have your MCAT score in before applying to medical school, aka before you submit your primary application. You know what your score is, you just submit it and you don't have to worry about it. But realistically, this is really hard to do, especially if you're in school. So say you're taking the MCAT the summer after your junior year to also apply that same cycle and start medical school. You would graduate this spring and then start medical school that fall. In order to do that, you have to take the MCAT during school, and the summer is when you have the most time, but then that also pushes back the timeline. And if you're taking it, say, mid-July, you don't know your test date when you're submitting your primary application unless you're waiting for your MCAT score after taking it in July. And then that really pushes you back. So the key for the later test dates is to submit your primary application without your MCAT score so you don't delay the application more than necessary. Let me explain what this means. I did not know about this the first time I applied, but you don't need your MCAT score to submit your primary application. And I think a really, really good rule of thumb is you probably have an idea of how you're doing with the MCAT and how you're going to score on it by the time you take probably the first AAMC full-length exam. For example, I can't remember what my first AAMC full-length was the first time I took it, but I know that my last was a 508 and I got a 509 on the real thing. The second time around, my first AAMC full-length was a 516 and I ended up getting a 516 on the real thing. So your full-length practice exams are your best friend when it comes to knowing a general idea of your MCAT score. Additionally, you can submit your primary application just to get it verified, which takes 4 to 6 weeks, without your MCAT score, and you only have to put one school on there, and then once it's verified and you have your MCAT score, you can go through and then add all the schools in that you want to apply to once you do have that information of what your score is. So let's kind of look at the dates and the application timeline for the 3 different services. So this is where I know my video's in the way. I will tell you once we get there, and you can refer back to this. So for Texas schools, you will be using the TMD SAS application. It opens and can be submitted on May 1st. They open the earliest, and you can submit it the earliest for Texas schools. And then June 1st is when your application actually gets sent out to schools. For ACOMAs, then it opens and can be submitted May 5th, and then schools begin receiving it on June 15th. MCATs, and this is what we're going to use in our examples on the later slide, but they are different than the other 2, whereas they open on May 3rd, but you can't submit it until May 27th. So even though if you're also studying for the MCAT alongside of this, you should start this before May 3rd and just have it ready to kind of copy and paste over. But you can actually go into the portal and put in all your essays and personal statement for your application starting May 3rd, and then you can get it ready to be submitted around May 27th, even without your MCAT score. And on June 25th is when applications start getting sent to medical schools. If you can't see that this is what this says. June 25th is when applications get sent to schools. Okay, so I have linked here all the information you need to know. For example, let's look at TMTSAS. They have, this is all linked right in these little columns. But this is where I got this information, and you can go to these pages for even more really good information, but you can see that it opens here. They even have this really pretty timeline PDF that you can print out for yourself if you're doing Texas schools. This is the information I have here, but then there's all the other dates. And for DO schools, this is linked. This is when it opens, the yada yada. Okay, in AMCAS, they don't have this like really neat way like the other two do. You just have to look for this pre-med calendar, and that's where all the important dates are. So here you can see that June 25th date when they start sending primary applications to schools. All right. Next, we can talk about how to apply early with a later test date. Like I said before, the key is submitting your primary before you have your MCAT score. So on May 1st, not sure why I put May 1st here. I will change that to May 3rd. You can start filling in your primary application alongside your MCAT studying, but you can start even earlier. Just put it in Google Docs ready to copy over. Then May 27th, you can submit. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to get verified. And say you take the May 28th MCAT exam. You will get your MCAT score on June 29th. So basically, by the time you get your MCAT score, if you submitted it like right as soon as you can, your primary application will be verified. That way, a few days after you get your MCAT score, the schools are going to get your primary application, your complete full primary application, just 4 days after anyone else who already had their MCAT score and would have gotten it. So a 4-day lag is not a big deal. Somebody has asked me that before, but it's going to be 4 days after June 25th. Is that like a big deal? No, 4 days is not a big deal. Let's look at other MCAT dates. And first, let's talk about the other scenario. This is what I did when I first applied for the 2017 application cycle. Let's say you take the MCAT on May 28th. You don't work on your primary yet. And then on May 29th, you're like, oh, I have all this free time now. I'm going to work on my primary application. And then you submit it mid-June. Or let's say maybe you submit it mid-June, but maybe you're like, oh no, I want my MCAT score in first. So you get it ready to submit when you get your MCAT score on June 29th. So instead of this date, June 29th, you click submit for your primary application. You have a complete application, your MCAT score is in, but it hasn't been verified yet. After that June 29th of submitting it, you're still going to have 4 to 6 weeks for verification. And once you get later in the timeline, it's probably going to be closer to the 6 weeks. So then you're going to be a month and a half out before. So let's see, what's a month and a half from June 29th? That would be, let's just say July 1st to August. So mid-August, let's say mid-August. Instead of schools getting your full primary application a few days after June 29th, they're not going to get it till mid-August. So then you're way off from this June 25th, and that's not the way to apply early. So if you're comfortable submitting your primary application to one school without your MCAT score, then you can just be 4 days off. That is how you, in quotes, kind of apply early with a later test date. And then so let's look at other test dates and just compare it to this date. So you submit it on May 27th, and let's say you take, this is also linked. Okay, let's say you take it June 18th. So you're going to get it July 20th. If you follow this process, you already submit it early, then around July, what was it? I already forgot. July 20th. So that's less than a month still away, and still a lot earlier than, like, say somebody takes it May 28th, submits it then, and schools get their application mid-August. Whereas if you take a later test date and you submit your app May 27th, then your primary app is going to get sent to schools sooner than that person who waited for their MCAT score, if that makes sense. So they took an earlier date, but their primary app is going to get sent later because of the way that they did it, whereas you are going to play it really smart. You're going to submit it early. And then if you took June 18th test date, then schools will get it around July 20th. So that is how you kind of go about doing that. And being early is really important just because the earlier you are, the earlier interviews you get, and then that's less seats that are filled. Like, say you're not interviewing until January, there might only be 20 spots versus 80 spots open. So applying early is definitely in your favor. I think that's one of the huge things that I did the second time around applying, and part of being so successful was applying early. Also, let's just quickly note that don't rush though. This is what I put here. It's not worth rushing. Taking an extra few days is okay. And I actually did. So I think they opened around May 27th last year, and I ended up submitting it around June 1st. So just go ahead. If you aren't super on top of it and you need the extra 3 to 4 days, that is totally okay. Just get it in around this date. Apply without your MCAT score. As long as your full-length exams are around your goal score, then you're good to go, and it's only going to one school.
All right, I really hope that video was helpful for you guys. I know the first time I applied to medical school, I didn't know those things, and a video like this would have helped me apply earlier and just be smarter with the whole process. So I hope it helped. If you still have questions, ask them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get to them. Definitely check out the MCAT study schedule course if you need help setting the perfectly personalized plan for you. And other than that, like and subscribe if you like. I always hate this part, but like all the YouTubers do it, so I feel like I should say it. Anyway, see you in the next video.